Yeah. All right.
This is Lucas from the press.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, mate.
How you doing, man? Yeah, good. Yeah, how you doing? Appreciate you.
Who are you with?
I'm with Press Hops.
Okay, cool.
Press Hops, yeah.
Yeah, cool, yeah, you can film what you want.
Thank you very much, sir. Here we are, people. We're here at the campaign. Anti-Fascist. We've got to find a spot where I can actually get a good position. But we are here anyway. Tower Hamlet.
Are there three of you? Yeah. About IT and skills. Not like AI.
Every time I gotta say put it down. And then no, you know what I mean? It's sort of like take your name.
I know what you mean.
We're probably good, Rosie, yeah?
Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
Can take their seats. It's great to see so many people here tonight for this anti-fascist assembly hosted by Stand Up to Racism. I want to welcome everyone to what will be a really important and crucial event, so thanks everyone for coming out. My name is Samira. I'm a national organiser for Stand Up to Racism, and I just want to start by obviously introducing the meeting. I'm sure I don't have to tell people here how urgent it is to have this kind of assembly this evening, to bring people together to discuss how we can fight back against the threat of the far right and fascism in Britain today. Obviously, 4 weeks ago, I'm sure a lot of people would have been marching against Tommy Robinson in central London. That was a day where Tommy Robinson, a fascist who has always tried to build that kind of fascist Islamophobic street movement in Britain, got his biggest numbers ever. He got out over 100,000 people onto his demonstration filled with hatred and racism. And today is multicultural, with a big Muslim and Bengali population, and an area that has a very proud history of fighting back and defeating the far right whenever they try to come here. And today, obviously, we are going to have the resolution that when UKIP try to march in Whitechapel, we will be there to stop them, and we will send them packing again. Tonight, I think is part of an anti-fascist response that is happening all around the country. It's part of what we've seen with hundreds and thousands of anti-racists around the country taking to the streets in defence of refugees, often against the far right outside of refugee accommodation. It's part of the thousands of people we saw in Leeds the other day on a unity demonstration saying that the far right will not divide us. It's part of women standing up around the country and being a part of the campaign Women Against the Far Right, which is leading the anti-racist movement at the moment. So I think we can see we're part of something bigger, but in turn our movement needs to be bigger as well. But there are huge potentials for that to happen, and I think tonight will be represented by a lot of the hope we can see against the far right. A pathetic trip so far, but obviously one we know that links them up with the far right and genocide committers in Israel as well. So we're sending a message actually to the international far right that we are the movement that can push them back, and we won't let the same biggest possible anti-racist response, building the demonstration against UKIP on the 25th of October. And we've got a great panel of speakers here today that you'll hear from, and I'll come to our Hamlet and on the Isle of Dogs, that far-right thugs, people a part of Nick Tanconi's other outfit, Turning Point UK, had tried to intimidate and shut down an anti-racist meeting on the Isle of Dogs, an area which the BNP once had a hold of, but we defeated. But Safia, who's our first speaker, was one of the people at that meeting, and someone who's always been out against the far right in Tower Hamlets and actually remains defiant in the face of them. So I want everyone to give a big round of applause to Safia Jack.
It's such an honour to be in a room of people that will be on the right side of history. I grew up in this borough, from primary school to secondary school, and still live in this borough. So this borough is my borough, and I have seen it in the late 80s when there were so many inequalities. There was a time that we weren't allowed out because if we did go out, there would be attacks, and so we stayed indoors, and that was normalised. Having racial words or racism thrown at us for being black, ethnic minority, or just being different, whatever the difference is, was a norm. And then I reminded myself that there are people around the world, like Palestine, Sudan, and many other countries, Congo, that are going through worst experiences. But what's so important, I think, is for us to realise that this is a pivotal moment. It's a very important moment. And when I looked at Ara, have been brainwashed and being used as a tool. Some of them, I honestly would say they're not even racist, they're just brainwashed. And so there is a sense of obligation for us to tell them a story that sadly, universally has been told that brown people or ethnic minority or other people are less human, have less rights, and therefore when we see people being killed or attacked around the world, it's okay because it's sadly the propaganda that sadly we've accepted for many, many years. And I think it's a moment where now we need to realise that we've been lied to. We need to realise that every single one of us in this room and beyond has a role, a responsibility, a huge task. And that task is to make sure that we're not passive, that we don't let the next person hold the responsibility or attend the protest. That what happened recently in central London was because a lot of us, because we're more than them. They're just more organised. And I think there's something about us being more organised. And a lot of people are giving their time, especially in Stand Up to Racism, across London. So many different branches, amazing people that put this event together, that put many other events together, will continue to put events together. But they can't do it alone. And so if we use them as a tool to make sure that every single one of us need to really donate our time, and that's the most valuable commodity. We could be organisers. When we know, and I stood there on Tuesday as they, by the way, Isle of Dogs is a part of Tower Hamlets, but when I was driving there, it was so scary with the flags that are not just, St. George's flag, a flag, it's a statement. It's a statement of hatred, it's a statement to show certain people, to make sure that we come in numbers because it is a numbers game. So thank you very much, and this is a big journey and a journey that we have to all take together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Safia, and solidarity to all those who were in that meeting. But we will get them back on Saturday coming. So now I will want to, I'm very honoured to invite our next speaker. Our next speaker is another defiant Muslim woman who is leading the fight back against the far right and Islamophobia. Another person that has always stood with anti-racism and for the cause. So please do give it up for Oksana Begum, the MP for Poplar and London.
So thank you so much, Samira and Sabi and all of the team that have put this event together. It's an absolute pleasure to follow from our sister Safia, who had that horrific experience on Tuesday in the Isle of Dogs, and who's been a stalwart organising in our area, supporting women and children, the people that are actually supporting women and children in Tower Hamlets and much beyond. I want to start by just giving a big warm welcome to everyone here today, whether you are in Tower Hamlets, whether you live in Tower Hamlets or have come down from elsewhere, everyone on the panel, and also especially my sisters Zara and Belle, who've brought solidarity in person from the West Midlands and from South London as well. Now, I want to say, firstly, that there is no courage, absolutely no courage, in trampling on the most vulnerable in our society. And sadly, that's what we've been seeing in the Isle of Dogs and around surrounding areas as well since the summer, and actually before that as well. I don't think there's any common sense at all or legitimate concerns about recycling the failed policies of the past, defending the political economic system that no longer serves us, and instead we have the people on our side. And I think we need to make sure we stick together, we come together in bigger numbers, but also organise in a way that we can defeat them once and for all. And I just want to say that in the East End of London, as we all know, we stand in very proud anti-racist and anti-fascist traditions, where time and time again we have shown that we can win against fascism. At the Battle of Cable Street in 1936, where the murder of Al-Tabali in 1978 brought out people on the streets in defence, and where the Bangladeshi community were organising, in the anti-fascist mobilisation in the 1970s, and where we continue to see diversity as a strength, not a point of division, and where we've lived alongside refugees and migrants, but refugees in particular, even in the last few years. We also know that communities here in the East End of London, in Tower Hamlets, came together in other mobilisations as well, in international solidarity, including where communities came together in mass demonstrations in large numbers in the East End of London and in national demonstrations opposing the war in Iraq in 2003. So we know we have those traditions in the East End of London. I wanted to mention that example in particular as one of the most recent examples. And we know, as I've said before, we know that our struggles are intertwined with struggles abroad and injustices everywhere. What we know from all of this is that it's in these traditions of solidarity that we know we can overcome the hardship collectively. I know this week in particular, a few of us have been feeling defeated a little bit about the situation in Dockland, at Whitechapel in particular. And so I just want to end by saying that when you go home today and you continue to organise in the lead up to the 25th, that please remember that we are diverse, we're multicultural, we're multiracial, and we come from all walks of life and from all around the world. We cannot let them defeat us. On the 25th of October, we must send them a very strong signal that they are not welcome here. It's people like ourselves from diverse backgrounds, from all walks of life that are. And I do think that we should see the 25th of October as a moment to stand up to them, but also to celebrate our diversity and put that on display and put that on show. And I'm going to end there. Thank you very much. Solidarity.
Thank you so much, Sana, and for everything that you do. Okay, so before I introduce our next speaker, I'm waiting for hands. I'm just going to make an announcement as well about the demonstration. Obviously, people have spoken about that on the 25th of October. But I also wanted to say that, this evening I'm on to fight against a fascist like Tommy Robinson and dispelling the myths that people like Tommy Robinson or Nick Tenconi, these thugs, are the people who are the great defenders, so-called, of women and children in this country. I think we have to send a very clear message today, but also on the demonstration, on the Women Against the Far Right block, which has been called, that the far right are not the defenders of women. And in fact, that as a woman in this country, what makes me feel unsafe is not refugees and migrants, is not refugees fleeing war, persecution, their own abuse, trying to find a better life in this country. What makes me feel unsafe is fascists like Robinson, far-right figures like Reform and Nigel Farage, who want to roll back on abortion rights alongside all of the other attacks on refugees, trans people, and the rest of it. That's what makes me feel unsafe, having to stand outside refugee hotels against the far right on a weekly basis in this country. That is what is making women unsafe in this country. And the police, of course, which doesn't go without saying, who are never defending our side, are always on the side with the far right. But I just wanted to say that I hope that everyone who can joins that women's block on the 25th. So I have seen a couple hands, if people want to put them up again. Okay, there's a mic that is going round. I'll take this, you with the Apple Watch. Yeah. I'll keep you to 3 minutes if that's all right, so we can move on. I'll tell you to be quiet after 3 minutes. Sorry.
I won't be long. Hi, my name's Audrey. I'm sure you can tell from my accent I'm American. Oh, you can't hear me? Okay. My name's Audrey. I'm from the United States. I became an adult in 2014, having been fanatical about history in high school. And I decided, looking around, that things were not going so well. So in 2015, I decided to leave my home country because I warned everyone around me that if we did not take action, bad things could happen. Everyone said I was crazy, that Trump would never win. We saw what happened there, and I still carry some guilt about the fact that I ran away from the situation rather than trying to solve it, but I was quite young. And I grew up in a very fundamentalist Christian family, something like what Mike Pence, I guess, subscribes to. So I came here for a better life, and I found it. I felt very comfortable in England, very happy. And unlike many of these people who will be marching against us on the 25th, I earned the right to be British. It took me 10 long years, but I earned that right, and I'm going to defend that strongly. But all I would say is I would urge everyone, please do talk to your friends, ask them to come out, because I've seen in my own country what happens when we all say, it can't happen. Even now I tell people, and they say, no, reform won't win, reform won't win. And I said, that is exactly what I said 10 years ago. And why I decided to leave and to see it follow me here has brought me immense sadness. So I hope everyone will reach out and also try to convince their perhaps neoliberal friends that...
While you're speaking.
Thank you, Samira. My name is Paul Holgrove. I was one of the founding members of the Anti-Nazi League a long time ago. And the reason I say that is that I think what the Anti-Nazi League achieved was by a total commitment to campaign against a very threatening National Front, who were threatening to break through in terms of a majority in Parliament, given their vote in the GLC elections a couple of years earlier. And how we did that was that we were unrelenting in trying to separate the nasty, hardline fascists from the softer racists who were appalled at what Starmer has done, were appalled at 14 years of austerity, and through lack of hearing the alternative argument, they then succumbed to the racist argument. We need to drive a wedge between the hards and the softs. And that was fantastically successful in the late 70s and early 80s. And I think that, friends and comrades here, what we face in Tower Hamlets is a bitter provocation to march in a borough that has the highest Bengali population down Whitechapel High Street, for God's sake, and then to threaten to go to Cable Street. If I were the only person on that march to Cable Street, I would physically oppose them. I am not having our position. I am not having our great tradition of anti-racism trashed by a Nazi saluting Tenkroni. That is absolutely what we should all decide today. But I just want to say one other thing. I want to congratulate Stand Up to Racism for getting together this platform, but I also want to congratulate those Stand Up to Racism branches up and down the country last year and this year who have unrelentingly opposed the appearance of reform or the fascists. Up and down the country, they defended mosques, they defended libraries, they defended community organisations. But comrades and friends, we are too small. And the significance of this platform, from Ben speaking, from the other MPs speaking, Zara, the person who started began at the front, we all need to unite. We do have political differences, but let me tell you, when Farage is in power, he doesn't distinguish between me and a right-wing Labour councillor. We need to pull them in and say we are under great threat. I've been active for most of my adult life, and I can honestly say this is the biggest crisis and the biggest challenge that faced us all. Let's unite and smash them off the streets in Tower Hamlets on the 25th.
So, I believe there was someone, yeah, in the glasses. Did you have your hand up, yeah? You can ask questions, yeah.
Hello, my name is Azra. As you can tell, I'm an immigrant. I came here around 2015, and ever since I came to this country, I never quite felt welcomed. Like, I grew up with seeing headlines saying how bad immigrants are, how they're stealing quote-unquote jobs or whatever, and I feel like that kind of ideology never went away. So my question is, sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Anyway, there's quite a lot, at least from what I've seen, there seems to be quite a lot of divide within the left, like especially with parties like Labour and with their policies where it seems they can't even accept such a basic thing of realising that there's a genocide happening in Gaza and Palestine. They don't really seem to accept that kind of ideology, and they've made their stance quite clear that they don't want any kind of protests happening in support of Palestine. And while I am really happy to see alternative parties being created, my question is, if we have no united ideology within the left, how are we supposed to, in the upcoming elections, win against the right? Because I don't know if anyone in the room feels quite the same thing, but I kind of get the thought that the right is a lot more, sadly and disappointingly, seems a lot more united because they seem to accept a lot more hardcore ideologies like fascism and Nazis, but in the left it seems we can't even agree on one simple idea. So, like, what are we supposed to do in the upcoming elections? I think a lot of people don't know if they want to vote for the Your Party or the Left or the Green Party or the Labour Party. So, yeah, that's my question. And thank you so much for making this meeting tonight, and thank you so much for all of your efforts in standing up against racism.
Thank you.
Green Party.
Okay, we'll have time again for more contributions, but I'm going to come back to our speakers now.
Thank you, Samira, and thank you all for being here tonight. As has already been said, the Tommy Robinson demonstration last month was the biggest far-right demonstration we've seen in Britain in its history, and the result of it has been a massive increase in the confidence of the fascists and the racists. Since the protests this summer outside hotels housing asylum seekers began, and with the raising of the colours movement, and then culminating in Tommy Robinson's demonstration, we have seen a Sikh woman being raped, we've seen a Muslim boy in Scotland being stabbed, a Muslim girl in Bristol shot in the head, a mosque in Sussex set on fire, and an exponential rise in violent verbal abuse against Muslims and migrants on the streets. And the question for us, I think, is how do we break that confidence and delegitimize those ideas. And I want to start in a weird way by one of the wrong ways, I think, of trying to do that. And that is some version of progressive patriotism or trying to reclaim the Union Jack or St. George's Cross as our flags. Those are the flags of the imperialists, of the racists and the exploiters, and we should have nothing to do with them. They are the flags under which the ships that were transporting slaves sailed. They are the flags that were foisted upon lands that were colonized by brute force. They are the flags that were stamped on the bombs that landed on Palestinian children's heads. And they are the flags that sit behind Keir Starmer like they are an appendage every time that he passes policies that impoverish the working class in this country. There is no national interest or shared flag between us and them. That is an idea that we have to confront, not co-opt. We should be clear that the racism in our society, the racist rot in our society, starts right at the top. The ideas that drive the fascists today come from 10 years of calling migrants and refugees swarms and invaders to justify their austerity. They come from 20 years of demonizing Muslims to justify their bombing of the Middle East. When Keir Starmer quoted Enoch Powell, that was no accident. When he calls the Palestine movement un-British, as a Palestine flag is ripped up on the stage of the Tommy Robinson demonstration and then he fucks off to Israel, that is no accident. We know that we can't rely on the state, we cannot rely on the police, who consistently protect the free speech of the fascists but try to crush ours at every step. Who in August attacked anti-racists in Bristol to march through a group of racists to a hotel. Who last month let Tommy Robinson's thugs run riot in the capital, but the next week were arresting Palestine protesters, including blind our Cable Street. They shall not pass, and we will consign them to the dustbin of history where they belong.
Thank you. That has always used their platform to speak out against injustice, against racism. Please do give it up for Bel Rabir Adi, the MP for Hamlet.
Thank you very much. It's always great to be in a room full of anti-racists, mostly because it's safer. But you know, it's especially important at a time like this when we think about the truly toxic atmosphere that we're finding ourselves in, where bigoted and racist rhetoric is just increasingly becoming common. And that's all we ever see here. So it's reassuring when we see rallies like this because that means there are still people willing to come out and still people that are willing to stand up to the far right and refute all of this vile toxicity. And I don't want you to, for a second, think that that's not important. Because living in these concerning times and seeing them get bolder is something that is scaring communities up and down the country. Their marches, they're getting bigger and more frequent, and politicians are looking, that we're meant to be looking to for representation, are beginning to actually reveal their true colours. Now, we're seeing these fascists marching in the streets, spreading fear on social media, and claiming to speak in the name of protecting our communities. But their message is one of division and hatred and exclusion. And these past 2 summers, what we've seen, the rioting, the anti-migrant protests, the attacks on asylum seekers and their accommodation provisions, all under the guise of protecting communities and at times protecting women. People were literally setting fire to hotels housing refugees, all in the name of this false so-called protection. And these 100,000 people that we saw march alongside Tommy Robinson and no racist thug and listen eagerly to this far-right figure and his mates as they all shared hate-filled messages and incited violence. And I know, and actually it feels to me sometimes when I'm listening to some things that people are saying, that people want to excuse some of the people joining these marches as just being angry at the way things are going, or maybe say that, you know, not everyone who joins one of these marches is of the far right. And do you know what, that's true. I'm not saying everybody that joins one of these marches is of the far right, but frankly, I don't buy that it should be an excuse. No one joins a protest staged by Tommy Robinson and known far right racist stuff. no one joins a protest like that if they don't share some sympathy for these views, or at least think it's okay. And I'm not going to apologise for thinking that this is not okay, or that a little bit of racism is okay, or a little bit of scapegoating is okay, because it's not. Because I'm an anti-racist. And I'm not an anti-racist just because I'm a black woman. I'm an anti-racist because I actively challenge racism, and that is what we demand from everybody else, and we shouldn't be letting up on it even a little bit. And you know, what concerns me is that these over 100,000 people are so dissatisfied with life in Britain, it seems, that they see no direction or hope from our mainstream parties, that they're turning to Tommy Robinson and turning to fascism. And those who are not are turning to reform, which quite frankly isn't that much better. And I'm really worried that politics at the moment isn't necessarily offering a home to those thousands of people, but instead pandering to reform and further stoking those politics that are leading to all of this division. And we cannot allow the far right, Reform UK, or politicians of any stripes actually to shape the society, our society with fear, or actually use these real social issues to cover for racism and xenophobia and turn neighbour against neighbour or scapegoat people. Because the truth is clear that migrants are not a threat to our society. They actually are a credit to them, which is one of the reasons why I think it's so disgraceful that we've heard recently, and not even in a sensible way, if you know anything about immigration law. Some of these changes that people want to bring in place in terms of indefinite leave to remain, they are so wrong. They are so wrong because we are literally... And they are so wrong that they're probably going to have to change them, because I tell you what, who's going to do all the work? You cannot just rip out the heart of, and this is in cities like London and some of our public services, rip out or pull out the rug from under the people that are quite literally servicing our public services. So we need to stand up against that. And as anti-racists, we need to reject all of these politics of division that are just being pushed so far into our politics, and stand up. And standing up to the far right means challenging their attempts to co-opt all of these genuine concerns like violence against women, which is why I'm so pleased about that particular bloc that has been formed. Now, we need to make sure that we are showing that there are many, many more of us than there are of them. That is how we protect our neighbours. That is how we protect our community. So I hope that you will all continue to show up, not just on the 25th, but whenever you can, and just show that there is nothing that they can do to divide us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, we are sure that we will not just outnumber UKIP in this country, from Stephen Lawrence to the BNP to Tommy Robinson today. If you've joined the anti-racist protest in the last, I won't say how many years, not to embarrass Wayman, but you can be sure that Wayman has had a part in organising it. So please do give it up for Wayman, who's the co-convener of Anti-Racism.
I want to start off by thanking everybody who stood up against the far right outside those hotels and made sure that we said that refugees are welcome here and we wouldn't give in to that scourge of people trying to attack them. And people mentioned history, and I want to talk about history. I won't tell you how old I am, but I am saying my geography teacher is sitting in the third row back there from an East London school. I grew up in East London, and I want to say about why history is important, not their history. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to hear about fucking queens and queens and the rest of them, right? I want to talk about our history, right? Our history starts off with what Paul talked about. I was assaulted against the Nazi. Outside there and around Brick Lane, we fought for these streets. These streets were not given to us. We fought for them. They fought for them from Cable Street. And our slogan was black and white, unite and fight. And I have to say that we had to do that. And at the same time, we were told that our enemy, somebody asked a question, our enemy always looks scary. I remember when I joined the movement, I'll say it now, as a school kid, I was 12. And I remember being told, I remember them saying, you're a kid, what are you going to do, right? And I remember that the Anti-Nazi League said, you can do something yourself. We're all leaders. When people talk about leadership, they always talk about leadership from above.
I respect all the leaders on the front of this, but I tell you what changes things. It's what people do on the ground and how they fight back. That's where the leaders actually come from. And I'll tell you, let's look at the history of this movement. I saw the National Front chased off the streets down Brick Lane. It took a lot. I saw the BNP. They elected one councillor here. And I saw we chased the BNP when they had their thing outside there. People don't remember. I remember, we remember. We did that together. The unity of us together. And we have to remember that that's our history, where people have come together. People talk about what happened when we stopped the Nazis in the 1930s. It was Jewish workers, it was Irish workers came together and chased them off the street. We have a history. I'm proud to be an East Londoner via Jamaica, right? And I say that as well. When they say they're going to come to East London, we're going to give them licks for tea. When I was a kid and I did something wrong, I was told, my brother would look at me and go, you're getting licks for tea for turning up and behaving in that way. And I tell you, when they turn up on Saturday, not only it's our numbers that matter, that we show that we outnumber who Tommy Robinson is. And please, can you stop telling us that racists are just not welcome, right? We gave them a welcome, they'll never forget. We chased them all the way down from Whitechapel, all the way up to outside Aldgate East, and you know what happened? They never got into the borough. And what happened to the EDL after they not got into the borough? It blew up, it ended. So when people say, is there a method of destroying them? The method of destroying them is to make sure that whose streets are these? Our streets. Whose streets are these? Our streets. And we have to make sure that people understand that. They never report our size. Think about the size of the demonstration of the Palestinian demonstration. Then you send them a new message. Amen. And that's what we have to do. We have to do on Saturday. And we don't do this because we relish it. I tell you why we do it. We do it for the children that come afterwards. Because I'm sick and tired of people tearing hijabs off women's heads and then saying they're doing it for the women and the children. I'm sick of seeing in Epping the little children being chased by the BNP, by those ex-BNP people with them. And you know who was with them? Robert Jenricks, the leader, deputy leader of the Conservative Party, who said, I walked through Handsworth and I couldn't see a black face. I wish they'd slick-slapped it. Right, when they went, this is me telling you, you don't understand, yeah? They should have explained it to him kinetically, if he didn't understand it theoretically, right? We have to bring together a movement that makes people understand we're not taking a step back. We're not going back to the scary days where they say that they're the majority. The only thing, Malcolm X said that sometimes you're out-organised, but we are the majority, and sometimes we have to bring that back together. So I want to say there has been a long tradition from the Anti-Nazi League to unite against fascism. And the other thing as well, don't forget one thing, the Nazis have got no talent. They can't dance, they've got no poetry, they've got no culture. All they can do is bring destruction, attacks, and destroy us. And what we're talking about is not only stopping them on the 25th, we're talking about our future. I'm glad that on the demonstration, there's going to be a Palestinian village in the middle of it that says that when they say we're going to forget about Gaza, never. We're not going to forget about Gaza. We want justice for the Palestinians. And the reason why we want justice for the Palestinians, you have to fight locally and you have to fight globally. And everybody's welcome. I'll tell you one of the hardest things. People ask what's the problem about unity. I'm going to sum it on this, right? The hardest problem about unity is nobody agrees with each other on the left, yeah? If you put us in a room, we'll be there forever about what we disagree with, right? The most important weapon we have is unity and solidarity. And so this message goes out. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're young, you're old. It does. I'm saying myself.
Introduction, but it's someone who, at a time when it is so needed, is leading a movement of hope against the politics of despair. So please do give up for Zara Sultana.
I do think some of Wayman's speech will get us all in the Daily Mail tonight, so I just want to use the start of my speech to say all doctors and nurses at the Royal London are professionals who will uphold their Hippocratic oath and treat application regardless of my ideology in the best manner. Now, to the journalists in the room, we know they're always here, so I think I had to say that. Friends, comrades, welcome to Tower Hamlets. We gather in a borough that knows what it means to stand up to hate. As others on the panel have mentioned, Cable Street to Brick Lane, from the fight against Mosley's black shirts to the struggles against the National Front. This community has shown time and time again, when the far right rises, we fight back. And we walk in the footsteps of giants, of Jewish and Irish dock workers, of trade unionists and socialists, of the Bangladeshi community who refused to be intimidated and showed the power of solidarity. This borough, Tower Hamlets, has taught the world that when fascists are on the march, we do not look away, we fight back. And the warning lights are flashing. The poison of fascism is returning to our streets and our TV screens. A Sikh woman in Oldbury raped by racists. Mosques attacked all over the country, anti-Semitism spreading online and in our communities, women and children targeted for the colour of their skin, people living in genuine fear. This is not the past we learn about in our classrooms, this is Britain now. And there's a poem by Michael Rosen, a Jewish poet from just a few miles from here, that I keep coming back to. He wrote, "I sometimes fear that people think fascism arrives in fancy dress, worn by grotesques and monsters, as played out in endless reruns of the Nazis. Fascism arrives as your friend. It will restore your honour, make you feel proud, protect your house, give you a job, clean up the neighbourhood, remind you of how great you once were." Michael Rosen wrote that as a warning, because fascism doesn't always come waving swastikas or marching in jackboots. It comes in the language of common sense, of taking back control, of legitimate concerns, of protecting our communities. It tells working class people that their problems are not caused by billionaires or bad bosses, but by their neighbours. That's how it spreads, that's how it wins, and that's why we must never not migrant thinking. And as we say on our marches, we say it loudly and clearly. We say refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here, and they will always be welcome here, because we will defend them at every point. And I was really proud to join the Stand Up to Racism march against Tommy Robinson last month, where 150,000 fascists marched through London, led by Tommy Robinson. They chanted racist, Islamophobic, anti-immigrant slogans, and we have to be clear about who's backing them too. The richest man on the planet is paying Tommy Robinson's legal fees. Elon Musk, a billionaire who floods our feeds with hate and conspiracy, is bankrolling global fascism. And Britain's problems aren't caused by migrants or refugees. They are caused by billionaires like Musk and the politicians who we all work with, who serve them. So what do we see in Westminster? A Labour Prime Minister quoting Enoch Powell talking about an island of strangers. Shame on him and every MP who went out and defended that. He also claimed that immigration has caused incalculable damage. Immigration strengthens us as our country. It has enriched our communities. We will defend immigrants because they are our neighbours, they are our friends, they are our colleagues, they are what makes this country great. And because of Keir Starmer and other politicians, we see the copying of the language of the far right. This is respectable politicians. Every time they do that, they make their politics stronger. Every time they mimic their politics, they legitimise their hate. Every time those politicians point the finger downwards instead of upwards, they are handing fascists a megaphone. And this government, this Labour government that we have, keeps millions of children in avoidable poverty. It attacks disabled people. It scapegoats the poor. And it continues to arm Israel, a genocidal apartheid state, as it has committed genocide and starves 2 million people. And that is being cheered on by Tommy Robinson and his followers, who are waving the same genocidal apartheid flag to justify both violence here and abroad. So when fascists in the UK and fascists in Israel are chanting the same slogans, we can see clearly that the fight against fascism is international. So we have brought the country to a standstill through our classrooms and in our streets because we are anti-imperialist and we are proudly anti-Zionist. We do not give cover to racist, supremacist ideology, whether in this country or abroad. We link our anti-racism with anti-capitalism because capitalism will always need racism to divide workers, to cheapen labour, to justify empire, to turn poverty into profit. And we will connect the climate crisis with colonialism, and the fight for migrant justice has to be the fight for economic justice. Our struggle against fascism is the struggle for socialism because there is no liberation without equality and there is no equality without anti-racism. And I have to emphasise that we shouldn't be despondent because the resistance is already here. You see it in the student occupations for Palestine, you see it when workers go on strike, you see it in the community kitchens that make sure no one in our community is left hungry, you see it in the mutual aid networks that refuse to leave anyone behind. That is our strength, it is our history, it is our future. So we have to make a promise to one another tonight that we are united, we are organised, we will not be silent, we will not be intimidated. Where they spread hate, we will build community. Where they spread lies, we will use the truth. And when they divide, we will organise. Because together, across borders, across faiths, across generations, we can and we will defeat the far right. They shall not pass, not now, not ever. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, well now we have, I think we're going to go straight into breakouts and then we'll want people to discuss amongst themselves, and then after that we're going to have some feedback from those breakouts and time for more contributions before we come back to the speakers. So I want to ask people to please turn to...
Except in the cases when the camera is pointed at me, then I can put several things
That will do for today. They've done bits, some footages. Got some footages. I'm out of here, people.
Has somebody left their hat?
Thank you very much.
Somebody just got up and gone out.
Okay. What's your name, sir?
My name is Paul Holbrook, and I was the founder member of the Anti-Nazi League, which saw off the National Front in the late 70s and early 80s. And we need to repeat that lesson today. And how we did it was a method of mass mobilisation on one hand, huge amount of leafleting on the other, and in addition to that, we gave confidence to every anti-racist when they hear a racist not to lower your eyes and look away, to say no, we're not having that. That's what we did with the anti-Nazi.
This was back in the 80s and
back in the 80s,
right?
And this is what we need to do again today.
Start all over again.
Robinson, Farage,
we've got to kick him out.
also the Labour politicians have no right to go onto the ground of the racists. They should stand with us, the multinational, diverse society.
Hear that, folks? Thank you. Can you just please say there, subscribe to 100